This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. My name is Eben Jansen. The show is live and it's broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We're also streaming live on YouTube right now with our entire show available on our YouTube channel all of the time. Today we shift our focus back to Nigeria and ask the question if the country is teetering on the brink. The Commonwealth Games is around the corner and we'll have a look at that with the World Cup in Brazil going into the knockout phase this weekend. It seems that for the last year, not one day has gone by without a headline in Nigeria reading bomb blast, attack or abduction. Last week, there were reports of at least 91 people, more than 60 women and girls, and 31 schoolboys being abducted by suspected Boko Haram militants. The attack comes as more than 200 schoolgirls are still being held by Boko Haram 2 months after the abductions from a school in Chibok town in April. Now, from the University of Johannesburg, we are joined by a political analyst and an expert on Nigeria, Lisa Otto. Good morning, Lisa. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's the latest coming out of Nigeria? It seems as if things are a little bit worse than what we are led to believe.
I don't know that they're necessarily worse. I think we're just giving it more attention than we used to in the past, but certainly there have been a number of attacks, as you mentioned, this last week, with the kidnapping of the women and the boys, as well as a bombing at a university in Kano, at a market in Adamawa, as well as at a shopping centre in Abuja, as well as the usual village attacks that we've seen on a weekly basis.
I've got some friends in Abuja, and they tell me that at times it feels as if the city's almost locked down a little bit with all the police and military presence in the capital, and also there's a sense that it's almost like a sort of martial law with people not really allowed on the streets at night. Is that the case in what you've found so far?
Look, I mean, Nigeria has often taken a very tough and a militant kind of stance to trouble arising, so that would seem a pretty apt description to me. They respond to problem security challenges, in particular with military force.
Now, Boko Haram, it seems as if this insurgency of theirs is getting more and more serious and they're getting more traction in the major centres. Is that accurate?
Well, you know, they've been around since 2009, creating a problem since the execution of the then leader, Mohammed Yusuf. And with Abu Bakr Shekau taking over, they've kind of shifted their focus a little bit. But I think there's certainly been a greater bid towards creating a bit more of a foothold, a stronger foothold in Abuja, and particularly because of the message that sends the government in light of this media attention that it's currently receiving. It says to the government, here we are on your doorstep, we're a bigger problem than you think, and kind of what are you going to do about it?
Is it a fair question then to ask, is the country teetering on the brink a little bit?
I think insecurity has been a major problem in Nigeria, and we must remember while Boko Haram poses the biggest security challenge, it's definitely not the only security challenge. There's widespread criminality, high levels of corruption, huge amounts of oil bunkering that takes place in the Niger Delta, as well as insurgency there, and then, of course, rampant maritime piracy. So keeping security under control in Nigeria seems to be a problem for the government.
Yeah, it seems where there's a little bit of prosperity, it seems there's a lot of action. I want to talk about the president, his role. Good luck, Jonathan. He's come out, he said, no negotiating with terrorists at all in his country. What then? It seems as if the current strategy is not really working.
Well, the government has in the past negotiated with terrorists. They have negotiated with Boko Haram and organised exchanges. So they've exchanged imprisoned militants for people who've been kidnapped. I think the current media attention that Nigeria is seeing on the Boko Haram issue is unparalleled. Yeah. And so I think the government and Jonathan in particular is very cautious of taking something that might seem like a soft approach. And so for that reason, they've continued with a military strategy. And it seems then to be a tough stance on terrorism. But as you rightly mentioned, the strategy, anti-terror strategy, has not been robust enough to produce results.
Just to conclude on the military, because last time we spoke about the military having some sort of collaborators within the ranks themselves. A lot of criticism. Is the criticism fair of the Nigerian army, and are they losing control in a way?
Yeah, look, I mean, the Nigerian army, there have certainly been cases where they're implicated in colluding with Boko Haram, but more than that, they've also been implicated in committing human rights abuses in terms of the way that they've pursued their military offensive in the northeast. So I think it's a very uncomfortable position that the military finds itself in.
It's very uncomfortable indeed, and it seems people are almost dying every day. I wanted to move on to another matter. Nigerian authorities have accused activists who have been campaigning for, abductees, the women and children's release under the Twitter hashtag Bring Back Our Girls, of being aligned with Nigeria's opposition. Sounds a little paranoid, if anything, but what's your views on this social media campaign?
Well, I think the first thing to mention is that Nigeria is due for a very hotly contested election early next year. So one has to take these kinds of utterances, bear it in the context of election politics, and how that impacts the body politic. But when it comes to the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, I think it's been one of those kind of popular fads where people have sought to improve their own social capital by getting on the bandwagon and weighing in. I think the problem has been that oftentimes people don't understand the deeper issues that are attached to this, and particularly problematic when it comes to terrorism, because terrorism is about exposure and impact. And when you get this kind of level of media attention, it provides relevance, and it's kind of like a tick of approval that your mission has been successful. So in a way, the campaign is actually aiding the terrorists by giving them what they want and spurring them on to more violence.
So we should not support these celebrities that are out there with the Bring Back Your Girls posters and the like, because it's counterproductive in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it is. I think if we're going to be honest, there's been little in terms of concrete action that's been taken to see the girls released. The ones that are home are the ones that have escaped. They're not ones that have been either released by Boko Haram or secured by military action. So I think it's a fine line. One thinks about the impact that public opinion has had, for example, in Darfur, to spur international involvement in Darfur. So it is a fine line, and of course now we have all this media attention, but one has to kind of look at the pros and cons of the situation. And like I say, people often don't understand the deeper issues associated.
Well, the issues in your face is that people are almost dying every day, and that's unacceptable. Thank you for joining us this morning. Lisa Otto from the University of Johannesburg is a political analyst and also an expert on Nigeria.
I have evidence that proves my dad's a space alien. He speaks a weird language. He says he's from Mbombela. I'm not buying it. I mean, just look at him. And one more thing, he has a spaceship. The evidence doesn't lie. My dad's an alien.
The highly advanced Audi A6, now including a free S-Line sports package. Guarantee its future value with Audi Choice.
Welcome to our Friday edition of A View from the House, coming to you live from Parliament. My name is Asanda Mbeche. President Jacob Zuma officially opened the National House of Traditional Leaders and calls on traditional leaders to work closely with elected public representatives.
South Africa is a much better place to live in than it was before 1994. Many of our traditional leaders can attest to that fact, having seen improvements.
A View from the House, weekdays at 2:30 on SABC News.
The Swaziland Tourism Authority invited Kaleidoscope on a media tour of what has become known as the Little Switzerland of Africa, the Kingdom of Swaziland. The Mantanga Waterfall is one of Swaziland's best known and most accessible waterfalls, as it can be seen within 50 meters.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Across
Across the globe, the continent and the entire country, every second there's always a breaking story. SABC News is your reliable eye, ear and information system in bringing you events as they happen. Our cutting-edge and hard-hitting journalism leaves no stone unturned, giving you the whole picture every time. Join us every day on SABC3 and know what is happening around you. SABC News, Africa's news leader.
You're still with Newsroom on SABC News. Welcome back. The 2014 Commonwealth Games are less than a month away now and will be held in Glasgow, Scotland from the 23rd of July until the 3rd of August. It will be the largest multi-sport event ever held in Scotland, although the country previously hosted the 1970 and 86 Commonwealth Games in Edinburgh. 70 Commonwealth nations will descend on Glasgow, competing in 17 sporting disciplines in 261 medal events now. South Africa will also be represented this year. The University of Johannesburg has a group of athletes representing the country at the Games. And here to tell us a little bit more is athletics manager Francois Fischer. And then we're also joined by Bernadette Costin, who will be representing our hockey team there. Good morning, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for having us.
Francois, if I can start with you. How are we looking in the run-up to sort of final preparations? Are we going to cause a stir there, and who should we be looking at?
Yes, I think if we're looking from a University of Johannesburg perspective, we've got quite a lot of athletes that will compete, as well as one of the officials as well. We are quite strong in the jumping events, and especially with athletes like Zark Visser, Godfrey Mokoena, and Raswell Samai, are some of the favourites in the long and the triple jump. Looking at the current status of their world rankings and the rankings in the Commonwealth, they can be in the medals.
Now, Bernadette, is it going to be your first event, first time in Scotland, first Commonwealth Games?
It'll be my first Commonwealth Games. Been to Scotland previously this year.
Why?
No, we had Champions Challenge, a tournament that we competed in there.
Yeah.
So we played on the same field and we stayed in the same hotel.
Oh, brilliant!
So we're aware of what's going on there.
So you've got a bit of background of where you are going, which is always nice. But
Yes.
first time at the Commonwealth Games must be exciting.
I'm very excited. I mean, it's such a privilege playing for your country. It doesn't matter where you play in the world. It's just such a privilege going onto that field and just playing for your country.
Absolutely. Francois, I wanted to ask you about an event such as the Commonwealth Games. How do you as a nation gauge success? Is it purely on medals?
I think if you're looking at the team, it's quite a young team with a little bit of mix of experience that will be going to these games. Yes, it is about the medal count. We want to be number 1, 2 and 3 on the podium. I think that is what the Games is about, but it's also the experience.
Yeah.
Some of these young athletes will gain experience into this multi-coded sporting event, and that will also be form part of preparation for 2016 Olympic Games in Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic showcase and great experience, I think, for any young person. But you must be a little bit nervous now. You're in the sort of last couple of weeks of preparation.
Yeah, I mean, we are aware of who we're playing and we've prepared well. It is always nerve-wracking playing at big tournaments, but that's part of sport, and I think that's what makes you perform.
And tell us about the team and how do you guys fancy your chances and what's the sort of outlook?
Well, our outlook for the Commonwealth Games is to medal, and we have a few. I mean, there are a few teams that are strong but we are able to compete, and we are very optimistic in going for a medal this year.
And Francois, South Africa, what do you need to do in order to galvanise a team ahead of an event like this?
I think it's about planning, and this planning didn't only start a month or two before this Games. It starts a few years back. It is that build up towards to a competition. It takes a lot of effort from coaching staff, management staff, and it's a team effort to galvanise that team into a well-oiled machine that can really perform at its highest level when it's needed.
on that given day, in that given moment? Can you deliver under pressure, I suppose, is what you have to get across. But in hockey, we always seem to court a little bit of controversy. We have in recent years. I think getting into the headlines for all the wrong reasons. We want to put this behind us and really compete with the big nations on this big stage. Is that right?
Yes, I mean, we're not as well recognized as some of the other sports in our country, but we've built up to a point where we've made a name for ourselves, and we just need to be given the opportunities, and I'm sure at the Commonwealth Games we're going to show people what the South African hockey team's really made of.
Pritcha, finally, you've got 30 seconds. One name. If there's one name that we don't know now in the South African team that we should be looking out for.
I think Wade van Niekerk, who had scared some of the biggest names in the 400 meters. I think he will be one of the athletes that we can really look at. He's a young talent. He's hungry for medals. And some of the other athletes that we can really look at according to the ranking is an athlete like Zart Visser, who's number 2 in the Commonwealth, that can really have an upster and beat one of the British favourites during this event.
Guys, thank you for joining us this morning, and all the best at the Commonwealth Games.
SABC News, we've got Africa covered.
99% Zulu has returned to the Loic Theatre in Gold Reef City in Johannesburg this weekend.
Now do the Mateba jive. The Mateba jive. This guy doesn't know how to do the Mateba jive.
Sarah Dupree is bringing his celebrity impersonations to Johannesburg. Audiences will be treated to nights of glitz and glamour and Cher, Lady Gaga, Tina Turner and more impersonations.
That's Afro Showbiz News, Saturdays 7:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Zoom into Africa. This is Seychelles. The president is Mr. James Michel James. Seychelles got independent from United Kingdom on 29 June in 1976. The population is over 80,000 people. One of the major languages spoken is English. Monetary unit is the Seychelles rupee.
Yeah, bumper football for the next couple of weeks. You can't wait. It's going to be fantastic. A man who's been right at the coalface, of course, Simon Burke, as always, prime-time sports anchor, and a man who knows a little bit about football. But before we talk football, let's just get Luis Suarez out of the way.
Okay, yeah.
Let's get Luis Suarez out of the way. That's just offside, wouldn't it?
It wasn't very good of him, was it? No,
I thought it was one of the dumbest things that I've seen in forever, considering the sort of history. If you've been caught twice, to bite the third guy at the World Cup, there must be something mentally wrong. He must be a snapper or something.
Well, he's just a stand-up bloke, isn't he? I mean, he cheated in the last World Cup, blatantly cheated, unapologetic about that. Now he's biting everyone.
He's got racism charges over his head.
He's got racism against him, and he still plays the victim card. And now his grandmother's saying that everyone's treating him like a dog. So,
well, if you're going around biting people, you are a dog.
Exactly.
Anyhow, I mean,
do you take it seriously, though? That's my question. Is this something you get completely outraged about, or is this just part of the entertainment of football? Because football is so far removed from everything else. You know,
my son is a footballer. He plays for Wits under 13 now, and that's not the kind of thing I want him to.
No, absolutely not.
Because, you know, footballers already are quite low down on my estimation of human beings as it is. You know, this incident is one incident. The other stuff, you know, the stuff that really gets under my skin at the moment is African teams and the way African teams behave at World Cups. It's just unacceptable. There we've got pictures running of Suarez, but let's move on to the African players. We've had pictures last night on social media coming through about, you know, John Boy kissing the money that they brought to them. This is before he scored the own goal. Cameroon infighting amongst players, infighting with the federation, refusing to come out of the change room and so forth. Kevin Prince Boateng being sent home, Suleiman Tari being sent home and so forth. And it all say the same sort of unethical behaviour.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's very sad to see this from African sides. Given the fact we've only got 5 World Cup spots to send teams through for Earth. So 2 of those teams have effectively wasted their chances. That's all you can say about that. I mean, these are camps in crisis. There's no way they could perform on the field when they've got all this kind of stuff going on in the background. I mean, Cameroon didn't even want to get on the plane to go to Brazil. It kind of shows you where that commitment is. When they did finally get to Brazil, it was an absolute fiasco. It was, you know, players fighting amongst themselves on the pitch, players, you know, acts of violence against other players, and then Ghana. What can you say about that? These players cannot be proud of themselves. But then again, this is football, and these guys are treated like demigods by all around them. And will they get chastised properly? Who knows?
There we've got the picture of the own goal. The man who also kissed the money. Do we have the picture of him kissing the money? I don't think we can put it up. Actually.
You know, the thing is, like, if you take Kevin Prince Boateng and Suleiman Tari, I mean, these guys have never really been committed to Ghana. They're not there in the trenches.
They're there to play in the World Cup.
They want to go to the World Cup, and they know that if we you know, Ghana will get us there. And then when they get there, they don't do anything of any merit. In fact, just, you know, further put the game into disrepute. And as you say, you don't have much respect for footballers. We all read the stories, the crazy money that gets thrown around, the absolute lack of any sort of ethical background that they have, and then they go and do this kind of stuff. And it happens to our players as well. It happens to South Africans. They also have arguments before going on pitch.
We have a long history of similar misdemeanors, as it were. But the other thing I want to talk about is the ethics of sport and sportsmanship in the end. It's really, the World Cup has become sort of the World Diving Championships in a way also, where simulation and trying to fop your opponent is as much part of the game now as playing the beautiful game itself.
Absolutely, and I think one of the worst incidences on that night when Luis Suarez bit, it wasn't that incident that really got under my skin. It was the Greek Samaras who dived, basically, not completely untouched, dived in the box, cost Ivory Coast their spot.
I've seen a lot.
That is criminal. But the thing is, you know, you're working in an environment with FIFA where the people don't really have much faith in them as, you know, stand-up human beings. So as long as players get rewarded for diving, they will keep doing that. If, on the other hand, FIFA immediately brings in video technology and says, right, you banned for 10 matches you dived, there's you know, indisputable video evidence, but they're not going to do that. So if you can get into the box and if you can do a nice swan dive and get a penalty, there's more reward than
There's
risk.
the picture, Simon. The picture of the man kissing the money. The same guy, John Boy, scored the own goal after he kissed the money. Jinxed an entire continent, I tell him. He should be lynched, man.
And well, okay, that's a bit harsh, but the thing is, about John Boy? I mean, he was one of these players for Ghana who you truly believed was playing for the cause. You thought he was playing. I mean, it was.
He nearly scored a second own goal in that game,
yeah,
man.
But I mean, you know, when you're a defender like that and you're scoring own goals, that means you're right there in the action, and it's unfortunate. I don't think he ever went and intended to do that kind of stuff. But then he goes,
they refused to play if they didn't fly over $3 million in back pay.
They had to charter.
The Netherlands, their players are playing for free during the group stages. It says everything about playing for your flag, playing for your country, and representing your nation.
I also think when you're in a setup like Netherlands, you're in a completely professional environment. Absolutely professional. I think in an African setup, we're still in an amateur environment. I know Suleiman Tari assaulted a Ghanaian official.
Yeah, he
but
choked
I
him
want to
apparently.
know. You know, I think these guys are surrounded by incredibly amateur guys who are just along for the free ride. Yeah. I mean, a Ghanaian football official. Are these guys of any worth to the team? I'm not defending this, but I think there's it's night and day. Netherlands setup, Ghana setup.
Okay, Simon, I agree. We'll leave it there and we'll try and move on to matters a bit more savoury. Small matter of a rugby match tomorrow.
Yeah.
Box are playing the Scots in Port Elizabeth. What's your views on this?
I think Scotland can give us a good go. Unfortunately, the match has been overshadowed by Saru's leaking it out to the press that perhaps this is a good time to field more black African Springboks. The coach never took that advice. I think probably a little bit, sorry, not understanding the point, because Scotland are a good side. I don't think this is the kind of place where you can just suddenly start experimenting.
We saw what happened last week when you underestimate a team.
Exactly.
They came out firing, and we've Scotland's been our bogey team a little bit.
And I mean, they went over to Argentina and they beat Argentina in Cordoba, and
that's a big result. We battled doing that. Actually, we got a draw there. But let's talk about this colour thing before we go. This quota scenario. There are lots of different views on it. The players say they're uncomfortable with being quota players and so forth. But if we've looked what's gone on the last 2 years after quotas have been scrapped, at Currie Cup level, we returned to where we were 15 years ago, with one black player on the wing and the others carrying the drinks.
Well, it's as simple as this. If you've got some of Heineken Meyer's perhaps chosen kids, they get immediate starts in the Springbok team, no questions asked, nothing. You've got guys that perform for the Sharks week in, week out at Super Rugby level. They don't get a chance. They go to the bench first, then they go do this, Goosen goes straight in. Marnus Boshoff would have gone straight in. No questions asked. Another guy like Lwazi Mvova, he has to keep earning his spot, keep trying. I'm not saying you should be handed it on a plate, but these guys have showed at Super Rugby level they're good enough. And Super Rugby level is the only level below the Springboks. Take them then. That's what you have to do.
That's what you have to do. Just quickly, so you're saying we winning within 7 points against Scotland tomorrow. So is that your call?
I think we're going to have a response after that Welsh, and I think we'll win more.
Oh, handsome victory, says Simon Burke. That's what we're going to get. Handsome victory for the Boks tomorrow. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for joining us. Always great to have you with us. Simon Burke.
A pleasure.
We'll keep you updated as to how things develop in the world of sport over the weekend. He'll be working this weekend, so keep an eye on him. Newsroom is broadcast live every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. from our studios here in Johannesburg, South Africa. The show repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a rebroadcast then at 5 a.m. the following morning. We're also live on YouTube every day between 9 and 10 with the whole show available on our YouTube channel, so you've got no excuse if you miss it. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.